Welcome to this week's episode of the Prep Athletics Podcast. I'm proud to have joining us Coach Ben Veshi, who's been the head coach at Hargrave Military Academy. This is now his third year. He's been there 10 years total. Excuse me. And he grew up in Massachusetts and actually spent 4 years at a prep school in NEPSAC, Marianapolis. I'm sure a lot of y'all have heard of that. And then he went from there to Catawba College, and then he coached at Marianapolis, to Catawba, before he got back to Hargrave. And I've known Ben for a long time. We've placed a lot of players at Hargrave over the years, and it's a different situation. And he kind of talks about the military angle and how that is in this current day of 2025, the academics they do, the tons of development in gym time their kids get in, which has been the fact for a long time, and much, much more. So it's really good having that conversation. A couple side notes. You'll see me in the video if you're watching this. I'm wearing a Xavier basketball sweatshirt. One of the Prep Athletics players, Michael Wolf, is playing there now. Michael spent his time at Bridgeton Academy before he signed with Xavier. So we support all the members of the Prep Athletics family who have NIL stores, and I'm just going to start wearing this stuff on the air. And I know Michael gets a little cut of everything that we buy, and all the players do. So if you see these sweatshirts in the future, just know we are supporting members of the Prep Athletics family. And then on my lap here, I don't know if y'all can see it, but we've got a new puppy. This is Bananas. Right? Kind of hard to see. I don't want to wake her up. She slept on my lap the whole podcast, and we got her about 5 days ago, and she kept it cool during the podcast, didn't bark, which is good, but we'll see how she matures and if she makes future appearances. So we got Maple back there who's jealous that we have a new member of the family. We got Bananas here, 4-month-old puppy, little long-haired Dachshund, and Ben Veshi on the podcast. So, yep, a little bit extra show notes there, but thanks so much for tuning in and enjoy this great podcast with Coach Ben Veshi at Hargrave Military. Welcome to the Prep Athletics Podcast. This is Cory Heights.
Some battles. I'm not sure if they got us. If they did, maybe.
So you will get better as a player during that year.
So it was kind of exciting. Like, oh yeah, somebody wants me.
Ben, welcome to the podcast.
Appreciate you having me, Cory.
Yeah, it's good to have you on. And tell me where you grew up and what got you into basketball.
Yeah, absolutely. I grew up in a small town called Webster, Massachusetts, about an hour southwest of Boston. And it's funny, you know, my grandfather's really who got me into basketball. He played in his own right. He served, and I've got the newspapers of him scoring 20 a game on base in Korea. And you know, so he put a hoop in the backyard for me. And ever since then, I've just been in love with the game.
Awesome. And then you ended up going from Webster to Marianapolis Prep. Did you go there as a freshman or did you transfer there?
I went there as a freshman. So I was there for all 4 years. Played for an outstanding coach in Dave Vitale. We made it to 4 straight NEPSAC championships. We won it my freshman year, Class D, and then 3 straight Class B. Back then it was, you know, A, B, C, D. So Class B, we lost 3 straight years of the championship, but 4 straight trips was pretty nice.
That is nice. So what was that conversation like when you were a kid to where you and your family decided to go the prep route?
Well, you know, I had grown up at St. Anne's, so I was in Catholic school. I was a private school kid. You know, it's funny. My parents actually were like, "Hey, if you don't do Marianapolis, you're gonna have to go to Bartlett, which was the local public school." And I was terrified because I didn't know what I was gonna wear every day. So I was used to wearing a uniform. So it was really a no-brainer. It was between Marianapolis and a couple other private schools like St. Peter Marian up in Worcester, and then St. John's over in Shrewsbury. But Marianapolis was 10 minutes from home, you know, and they had again, they had a lot going on. It made a lot of sense to go there.
And since you went to prep school, right, and now you're a prep school coach, like what benefits did you get from your time there at Marianapolis?
Honestly, what was great about it is from a culture standpoint, like I got to be in classes with students from Mexico and Taiwan and you know, Luxembourg and all these different places that it's a melting pot of culture, and you get to learn from so many different people, right? You get to have class with someone from California, right? If you've never been west of the Mississippi, that's like a whole different country, right? So, you got to have all of that experience, right? And you did it in a setting that really pushed you to want better for yourself, right? You wanted to look sharp, right, when you're wearing that shirt and tie every day, right? Like, and you wanted to have, oh, hey man, this is a really cool tie. Like, I can't wait to break this out today. You learned how to tie different knots to try to outduel your classmates and things like that. Academically, you really had to focus. Smaller class sizes meant that you didn't want to be the person that stood out for the wrong reasons. But if you were struggling, you had the opportunity to improve with direct communication with your teachers. So it was an awesome environment. And it's funny, like, a lot of the stuff that I learned, a lot of the stuff that I did at Marianapolis, like, I still apply to the day to day here at Hargrave. The setting might be a little different, but the values, the principles, the mission, it's all still the same.
Yeah, love that. What a great way to coach prep school is if you went through it. I think that's just a great benefit. And then, when your time ended at Marianapolis, you chose to play at Catawba College down in North Carolina. Who else were you looking at, and what led to your decision to sign with those guys?
So it's funny. I really was at the middle of my senior year, and I was like, oh man, I don't know if I'm going to play college basketball. Like, I was a good high school player, right? I helped contribute on those teams, but I wasn't really being recruited at a super high level. So my options were really, I was fortunate that my mom works at a small Division III school called Nichols College in Dudley, Massachusetts. So through her work, I was able to earn tuition exchange. And there was a whole list of schools all throughout the country. And I ended up settling on 4 schools to take a visit to and actually go through the application process and see what happened. And one of them was UMass Amherst. That's where my dad went. One was Nichols because that's where my mom worked. One was Mount St. Mary's in Emmitsburg, Maryland, and the other one was Catawba. And it just so happened that going into my senior year of college, my mom's boss at Nichols was a Catawba grad, worked at Catawba. He was actually a college basketball coach at one point. He worked at Memphis under Tick Price. So he was kind of, saying, hey, you got to go check out Catawba. Go check out this school in North Carolina. It's a really awesome place. So we took the trip, right? We were on a family vacation to Williamsburg. We drove 5 hours down to Catawba, drove 5 hours back in the same day to Williamsburg, and had the opportunity to meet with Coach Jim Baker. And my mom's boss kind of set all that up, and he said, hey, it might not be the easiest thing in the world, but if you come to Catawba, you'll have an opportunity to walk on, and play with our team. And I think that for me, like, that was a big deal, right? I didn't get to meet the coaches at any other place that I visited because I wasn't a prospective student athlete in their eyes. But to have some FaceTime with Coach Baker really solidified that Catawba was the right place for me.
Yeah, love it. What a great experience. And that tuition exchange, I'm assuming Nichols would let kids come there for free, and there were other schools that would let their staff kids go for free. I never heard of that before. That's pretty neat.
And the irony of it all, right, is that I was actually upset because going into the time I was applying for colleges, schools like Syracuse and Gonzaga and like the University of Washington were on the list. But then Nichols got put on some kind of probation because I guess that they were sending too many people out and not enough people were coming back in. So I had to change the list of schools that I wanted to really look at, and fortunately Catawba was on both lists, so it all worked out.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, things usually do work out, don't they, Ben? All right. After graduation, you coached at Catawba. You coached at Marianapolis. What did you take away from those experiences that you're using now at Hargrave?
I think that starting at Marianapolis, right, like it was really cool to go back home, right? And you got that level of comfortability. I was in grad school at the time. at Nichols. I was actually going to be a volunteer assistant with them until my old assistant coach, Andrew Vitale, at Marianapolis, gave me a call and said, "Hey, I've got an open assistant spot. I can pay you about $4,000." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm in." Right? Like I just didn't even give it a second thought. Like I enjoyed playing for Andrew, and having the opportunity to go back to Marianapolis was really special to me. And I ref soccer and did all these different things to try to make money, and then I started, I got to campus, was doing open gyms, and started to rub elbows with the girls coach there, who was really successful in her own right. And actually, it's funny, like our girls team at the time, like we had a girl going to Providence, a girl going to New Hampshire, a girl going to Boston University. So like it was a really talented group. And, she was in her first year and didn't really have much of a staff. And she was like, "Hey, do you want to come be an assistant?" And I said, "Yeah, sure. I mean, why not? I don't know the ins and outs of the women's game, but I'd be more than happy to learn." And what I learned is that playing the post is miserable if you're not used to it. I was basically a practice player. And at 5'10", I was the one working with the post. So I was running up and down the floor, rim to rim, and I was like, I want to go back to running top of the key to top of the key.
Mm-hmm.
But what it taught me, right, is that it taught me how to coach different people, right, and understand that coaching is not a one size fits all thing. So being able to hold people accountable, right, but treat them with respect, and that was a really eye-opening thing for me. It's funny, I asked he doesn't remember this, but Jamie Sullivan, the head coach at Worcester Academy, I played against him back in the AAU days, and he bumped into me, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm helping with the girls too." And I was like, "I don't really know how to coach them." He said, "Coach them like athletes." So that's exactly what I did, and it was great advice, and it was awesome to do that, right? And luckily, I was able to make my way back to Catawba for the next step of my career. Unfortunately, it was a time after Coach Baker had just got let go, and the new head coach Rob Perrin came in, and he gave me a couple tasks for my interview to be a volunteer assistant for him for 2 years. But what I really learned there was how to run a program, right? The ins and outs of the day-to-day operations, doing things on a shoestring budget. Because at Division II, you don't really have a lot. Learning how to really evaluate players and people in the recruiting process, I think is probably one of the biggest takeaways that's still applicable here at Hargrave now. But when you don't have a war chest of scholarships at your disposal at a Division II school, you got to really make sure that you're recruiting the right kind of kids and the right kind of fits for your program. And a lot of that I learned during my 2 years at Catawba.
Well, let me piggyback on that. We're going to get to Hargrave in a second because you recruit players at Hargrave now. You recruited players at Catawba. When you walk into like a showcase or an AAU gym and you've got all these games going on, and you walk up to a game and start watching, can you tell pretty quickly who's a Catawba level player, who's a Hargrave level player? Like, how long does that take, or how do you learn how to figure that out when you walk into seeing a random game at an event?
I think that the real cheap answer is that you do your homework early so that it's
Okay.
not random.
Okay.
I do think that there's some to that, but I'll find myself, especially in the summertime, I know who I need to see, but then like I'm not going to leave the gym. I'm a gym rat. I love being around the game. So I'll just sit down and I'll watch. It could be a random 16s game, it could be a 17s game, but you can tell pretty quickly, right? Knowing that again, it's a snapshot evaluation. Like it could be that young man's best moment.
Right.
It could be, their worst moment, and vice versa. But you start to look at, some of the different things, right? Like, is he talking on defense? How does he move? How does he act with his teammates? Things like that, uh, the skill, right? It's all relative. I think that the biggest difference is you can tell who's an NBA player and who's not. But then in today's day and age, right, like the kid that could go to Catawba, right, he's also probably a low major player, right? He's probably 1 inch taller than a D3 player with the same skill, right? And at Hargrave, we want all 3 of those guys, right? So I think that it is important to be able to quickly pick up on things like that.
What is something a player might do at one of these events that once you see this one thing happen, they're off your list? Like, is there a deal killer for you that you might see among someone you're recruiting?
It doesn't always show up in the games, but the way that they talk to their parents, the way they talk to their coaches, the reality is that as prep school level coaches, you spend so much time with your players, more so than with your own family. So it's important that you're around the right kind of people. It doesn't matter if you can score 25 points a game, but if you're the wrong kind of person, we're not going to recruit you here.
Yeah, love it. Now's your opportunity to give your pitch on Hargrave Military Academy, both as a school and a basketball program. So for those of the folks out there that never heard of you guys, what would you like to say to them about what you got going on?
First, I would like to say that Hargrave Military Academy is an incredibly special place, right? And it is not what you think, right? This is not a reform school, right? This is an opportunity for young men to become the best versions of themselves in a structured environment, right? Are we unique? Absolutely. Right. Our guys wear a military style uniform, right? We have a regimented daily schedule from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. And you get into a rhythm, right? And you are going to be held accountable for your actions, both positively and negatively. But I also have learned right now in my 10th year here at Hargrave that everything that we do for the whole person dramatically impacts your performance on the court in a positive way, right? We in the basketball side, like it's the best part of their day, right? Because, they get to kind of be quote unquote themselves, right? But they're going to go out there and they're going to play incredibly hard, right? And they walk into historic Walter Davis Gymnasium twice a day for skill work and then practice, and they see the 31 NBA players, right? They see the 300 plus Division I players that have come through here, right? They see the Hall of Famers, the coaches that coached here that went on to coach in college currently. And you get to basically work out in a basketball museum, right? We're old school. We don't have AC in the gym, which is nice, a nice advantage for us. Opponents aren't used to that. But it's an incredibly special place, right? We compete at the highest levels of prep basketball. And for me, right, being here as long as I have been, it's really cool to see each team each year kind of figure things out at the same time, different times, right? Like, but when that moment clicks, right, it's just a reminder of like how incredibly awesome this place is to see a group of 15 to 17 young men that have probably never met each other before leave in March and May, and they're brothers, right? They're best friends for life. Like they're still in group chats to this day, 10 years later, all in different parts of the country, different parts of the world, but you truly become brothers with your teammates while you're here.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I've been there many times. You and I have worked with plenty of players of ours that have chosen to go there. And I don't really recommend many kids to Hargrave unless they've got kind of that grit factor. Because I think the first time I saw you guys practice, that was your team that won the national championship. I think 14 out of the 14 guys went D1. So it was a knife fight. I still don't think I've been to a practice where every single player on the team went D1. The only one that didn't was Brooks Ely, my kid, who went Glenville State for 2 years, then transferred to Northern Kentucky. So you had, what is that? 9 D1 guys didn't even start every game, right? Which is crazy. And then you've got on the walls there all the NBA players that have come through there, all the coaches that are now at the collegiate level. But, I do mention to certain kids, like, hey, do you want to look into a military academy for prep school year? And about 1 out of every 20 will say, yeah, I'm interested in that. Are you seeing a trend with kids out there now in 2025 to where they're still open to military, or is it getting tougher to convince them because, they just don't want that adversity? Or what are you seeing on your end when you're recruiting kids?
Right. I think that you're still going to find the right kind of person at the end of the day. Like, what I think is become more challenging isn't necessarily who we are, but it's who other programs are, right? There are more prep options than there were 15 years ago, there 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, right? Like there are different situations. And what we tell ourselves, right? Because we do have to cast a very wide net because it still is about 1 out of every 20, right? The second you talk about cutting your hair and shaving your face, a lot of guys are like, Coach, thanks for your time, but we're going to look elsewhere. And we get it, right? And, I think that at the end of the day, we end up with the right kind of kids for us, right? If someone is willing to let a haircut come in the way of them achieving their dreams or not, like that kind of kid probably wouldn't make it here, right? Because if we're worried about our hair, like what are you going to do when it's 6:15 and you got to wake up for the 15th straight day in a row and you're just tired, right? Like you got to wake up. You've got to be able to push through some of that adversity, and if you do it right, you come through on the other side and you've achieved every single thing you wanted to achieve before coming to Hargrave.
Yeah, and guess what? I'm sure you use this in your pitch too. Every collegiate basketball program, you're going to be getting up early almost every day of the week, whether it's for workouts, conditioning, weights, extra study. So like it's the uniform is the biggest difference, right? In cutting and shaving your hair. And I've said it before on this, I'll say it again. I was never military, and I went to a military prep school, a military academy, served 5 years in the military, right? Served my country, deployed to the Middle East, and I still don't feel I'm that military, right? And I did all that stuff. So look on the wall, look on the website, see everyone that's gone to Hargrave, right? Don't have to do it. It's not for everybody. But if you're a serious player that wants to compete every day, have great coaching and training, like this place is tried and true. They've won national championships. Ben's been there a long time. So I'm neutral, but I just want to let you know, and I tell all the military coaches that have come on here, you guys have something special. To the general public out there, don't be scared of this, right? If you're going to play in a college, it's going to be tough. You're going to be wearing uniforms, whether it's a suit and tie for games or a sweatsuit or whatever. This is the same thing, just different, right? And you're going to come out better, stronger, and more prepared to contribute right away. So anyway, just my pitch for you.
And I was going to add to that too, Cory, like the hair grows back, right? It might not for me, but the hair definitely does grow back. So again, you're exactly right. And what we do here, right? It might be different on a day to day, but what it is, right? It prepares you for college basketball, right? We're doing 2 workouts a day. We're going to class. You've got to figure out meals, right? Like, we're in the weight room 4 times a week. It is college basketball. The only thing that we don't simulate here that you'll get in college basketball is a social life, right? Yeah. But everything that you're doing here prepares you for those situations to where, like, you're gonna be responsible. You're gonna make the right decisions. And the reality is that like anybody can do this for 7-8 months, right? Like, not everyone has to have the path of going from Hargrave to, a service academy to service of our country, right? We support that wholeheartedly if that's what guys want to do. But any of our guys that have come through here, right, like, you could do this for 8 months. And then when you got a long Thanksgiving break, a long Christmas break, and you play almost 50 games, you're not really on campus that much after October hits.
You guys play 50 games a season.
It'll be pretty close.
In 7-8 months, does that mean you get out of school earlier than June? Explain that to me.
So it's a lot. Like we're basically playing an NBA level schedule in terms of 3 or 4 games in a week, and the guys, like, we we try to schedule them so that it's not 50 high level games, right, all at the same time, because that's a lot on guys. We want to make sure that they're prepared for college, right? Like, we don't want to be the reason that someone's career is cut short. The way that youth basketball is in this country, like, you're going to play more, right?
Yeah.
You're not going to practice as much. Even though the practices here, like you've seen, like, they're probably more intense than some games.
Oh yeah.
So we're really strategic about that, but we want to create as many opportunities for our guys as possible to get recruited. So playing that many games allows us, hey, Cory, you're already going to George Mason, right? For example, like, this team we're going to play, like, I think we're going to be pretty good. Like, you're going to work out today and then you're going to rest during the game. We're going to let someone else have an opportunity tonight. And the guy that has an opportunity to step up, like, they're prepared for it because of how we work for it. And like, that can dramatically change the next 4 years and the next 40 years of their life if they perform well, they find the right fit, and then we have an opportunity for them to go to college because of that.
Well, let's piggyback on that. So talk to me how you do your placement with your players these days with the transfer portal, NIL, the game getting bigger. I know in the old days you guys had like a dedicated guy that would be making the phone calls, keeping everything tracked. How do you guys doing that in 2025, Ben?
So we are, as a staff, we have a document that we just compile all that information into, right? When we hear something on a guy, when we have a conversation about a kid, we make sure that everyone's on the same page so that we're all, saying the same things to the same coaches. If something's different, we don't want to make our miscommunication the reason that young man can't pursue that opportunity, because the opportunities are few and far between right now for high school players. And what it's done here is it creates a weird, tiring dynamic to where it's June and July and we are finishing up our roster for the current year while also getting guys, still finding them a home. Like our last guy in the 25 class signed in mid-July, right?
Wow.
Whereas it's almost, unheard of 5-6 years ago. Like, you had your early guys and then you had your guys that would go in the spring. And you might have one or two trickle past that late signing period in April that you had to try to find a home for. And now it's like, you're going year round trying to help these guys achieve the goals that they set out to achieve. And it's allowed us to have more direct conversations with guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's every young man that comes to Hargrave, right? They want to go Division I, right? It doesn't matter if you're the top player on the team, if you're the last guy in the rotation and the last guy on the bench. It doesn't matter, right? You're going to exhaust every Division I opportunity before you even think about Division II and Division III, right? 6-7 years ago, that was probably okay, right? Because, the spring, crazy things happen, more opportunities become available. Now we're telling guys like, hey, I know that you believe that you're a mid-major player, right? And you could be, but these are the schools that are recruiting you right now, okay? This Division II school is offering you a full scholarship. If you're a Division I player, go prove it, brother.
That's right.
We're going to support you wholeheartedly. Like, this school checks enough boxes for you, right? That, yeah, they're not on ESPN every night, but that's okay, right? They're going to give you an opportunity to play as a freshman, right? You're going to be able to pursue the degree that you want to pursue. It's not too far from home, right? I know that's important to you, right? That you want to be closer to home. And you don't have to pay to go to school, right? Like, you got to get that immediate return on this investment. And if you do what you believe you're capable of, what we believe you're capable of, you're going to be able to have that opportunity to transfer, right? Where I think that what it does is it lengthens the transactional phase of the relationship you have with your families, right? Like, everything is still transformational, But at the end of the day, like, families come to Hargrave because they want to go to college for free, right?
Yeah.
The reality is that 6-7 years ago, it could be as simple as, hey, this is where I'm going, right? Like, and we support them. Right now, it's all just a happy, we're there for them when days aren't great. We're there for them when days are great. But now it's like, hey, 12 months after a kid leaves Hargrave, coach, I'm in the portal. Like, do you think that you could help me out? Right? Absolutely, because
Yeah.
we have that network to do it. But it elongates that part of the relationship, right? Which in turn also allows us to be transformational for a longer period of time as well.
Yeah, I love that. They're always part of the family, right? And you're going to take care of them. Ben, talk to me on this, like ranking importance now. Is it the summer period before they show up? Is it the open gym period? Is it the games? Is it showcases? Is it your relationships with college coaches? Like, how would you rank like what the most important thing is today in
So
placement?
I think that the summer period is probably the most important right
Interesting.
now. And then honestly, after that, I would say that our reputation as a program,
Yeah.
coupled with our relationships, is probably the next level. Then you've got your games, right? With us being in the Elite Prep League and playing in all the national prep events, like, you're playing in the right events. You're playing in front of multiple college coaches almost every single night in those games, to where like the games do become important. The issue is that, if they're outside of the signing window, then it's like, now you're still just, you're hoping that you can continue that string of success when it comes time to sign. I think that what's become less important but still matters are the open gyms in the fall, right? Like,
Interesting.
I remember a time, I mean, shoot, you can go back to September 9th, 2016, right? This was my first live period at Hargrave, and there were 25 coaches on the sideline, right? You're talking like Chris Mack, Rick Stansberry, assistants from North Carolina, everywhere, right? Like, now it's like, if you are finding out about a kid on September 9th, you're so far behind, right? Like,
Interesting.
it's almost like you've missed out on maybe your top 4 or 5 guys, and now you're just going back to the well, and you're going to go to a place like Hargrave because you know that year over year we're going to have guys that are, high caliber players, high caliber people. So you're willing to make that quote unquote fishing expedition. That is become increasingly rare, right? Because the way that people are doing their high school recruiting, you prioritize guys. If you miss on them, you're like, well, it's October 13th. Do we want to just try one more swing at a high school kid that might be the right fit, might be good enough? Or do we just, hey, let's focus on our team right now? We'll revisit some high school kids in January, but come March, right? Like, we are full on portal for at least 30 days, right? So I think that the importance of having a really big summer is paramount. Like, we even did it this past June. We did the scholastic period, and
Cool.
that's normally not something that we would do, because at that time our roster's in flux, right? When you turn over almost your entire roster every single year, if you don't have enough guys to go out there and compete, like, you don't want to have the negative impact of that exposure where, we're not ready, we don't look really good, like we're going to go in there off of one practice maybe with a group of 10 guys that are playing together for the first time ever, right? But it was really good for us to do it this summer. And it's something that I hope that we can continue to do year over year, provided that we're in the space to be able to have that opportunity for our guys.
Yeah, I love that. Now, how many teams do you have there?
So we have one right now. We are actually planning to add a second team sometime in the next calendar year, to where for the 26-27 year, we'll have 2 teams. And then we have a varsity, a JV, and a middle school team under us.
Okay, gotcha. walk me through this. You mentioned the EPL, and you come from New England, and you go after a lot of kids that are looking at New England options and then EPL options. So what is your pitch when a kid says, I want to be in New England to be around, more high quality teams, and there's more college coaches that come up there? Obviously you've had success over the years, but what is your comeback to that?
Right. And it's really difficult for me personally, right? Because I'm a NEPSAC guy. Like I grew up in NEPSAC. Like I have so much reverence for what guys like Jason Smith and Jerry Quinn and Mike Hart and Jamie Sullivan, I mentioned him earlier, but like guys like that have done over the years with NEPSAC basketball. But I think that what we talk about here as a league, right, is that you're not just competing in New England, right? Like you're going to get out, you're going to have a team in our conference from Canada, right? Like all the way down to Georgia. And you're going to get to go and play in different events in different regions, right? Like we're going down to Atlanta this year to play an EPL league stop, right? We're going to Ohio twice. You get the DC market. In addition to going to New England a couple times a year. And what it does is the league as a whole, it's come a long way, right? Like Chris and Jack Herron have done an incredible job with building the Elite Prep League from what was a 7-team league 4 years ago to now is a 13-team league that's going to feature new additions like Spire and Western Reserve, along with your Hargraves, your Fork Union, your Mass Nut, your Mount Zion. You've got a really talented group of schools, and that's going to attract college coaches too, right? The weather's a little bit warmer down here. Not everywhere in the league, but it's a little warmer than New England. But no, the reality is that there's high level prep basketball everywhere, right? And with the Elite Prep League, like we believe that we are the best league in the country, from a competitive standpoint, from a top end talent standpoint. Do we have the same tradition and history of the NEPSAC? Absolutely not, right? But we're competitive every single year, right? We're battling with the NEBL and NEPSAC AAA, AA, whatever it is, right? Like, we're here to show that we might be the new kids on the block in terms of a conference. But we've got some prep school stalwarts that have been successful for a long time in this thing.
I'm thinking just off the top of my head, we need to have a showcase at the Palestra.
Yeah.
NEPSAC versus EAPL and see who wins, like the SEC Big East Challenge.
Yeah.
Someone smarter than me with more connections should put that on, but that would be interesting.
I was going to say, does Prep Athletics want to sponsor that?
Potentially. I don't know if I got the big bucks for that, but someone out there could make some money. And man, think about the college coaches. Think about the environment. I think Philly or DC would be kind of halfway for everybody. But think about that.
It'd be a great weekend.
I'll let you find the guy that can make that happen and let you share that with him. All right. One big question that family has asked me a lot is, compare these two schools and how much development will my son get there? So what's your pitch? I know Benson Lynn, who we sent there, you had to kick him out of the gym because he was in there too much training, too much and not doing recovery, right? He was the extreme. Right. But walk me through what your players are going to get as far as development, working with coaches, one-on-ones, et cetera.
Right. So everything that we do, right, we're going to do with a coach there, right? Like when you're in the weight room, right, you are following a structured weight plan, it's tailored to you, right, in terms of how much you can actually lift, right? We're going to go through the same exercises, but obviously you could push more weight than I can, right? So you're working out with someone actually teaching you the right form, right? Someone actually counting your reps to make sure that you don't shortchange yourself, right? And then the same thing happens on the court, right? Like I give a lot of credit to our staff, right? Our associate head coach, Luke Rosinski, and our assistant, John Mebin, right? Like those guys have been with me since day one of being the head coach here. And like John played here back in 2017, 2018 for Lee Martin. And what these guys do, like, it's college level skill work. we're in here. The way our daily schedule works out, like we have a dedicated block of time that is all about the individual, right? It is about you, right? Your improvement, not our team, right? We're not going to take time away from your time for team practice or anything like that. So every single day, right, you are guaranteed one individual workout, right?
Wow.
Then we're going to practice, right? Then we're going to practice. And that's, again, it's about the team, right? But you're going to get 2 highly competitive sessions on the court every single day, right? And even though we're a military school, right? When I told you you're accountable for your actions, right? That's both good and bad, right? So if you are doing everything you're supposed to do in the classroom, right? You're handling your business on the military side of things. You can come back to the gym after study hall, right? Our coaches are in there, right? Where they might not necessarily put you through a super physically intensive workout because recovery does matter. But like, hey, you're a 7-footer, right? And you're really great with your right-handed hook, but you're struggling with your left, right? We're gonna spend 45 minutes working on your left, right? We're gonna spend time with you mastering a specific part of your game that can help translate to college, or it's gonna help your recruitment. It's also gonna help us as a team, right? But you as an individual, right? You're gonna have professional hands helping you every single day, at least once a day, if not up to 3 or 4 times a day, right? Like we have guys right
Jeez.
now that are Benson Lynn Jr., right, where they're in the gym at 5 a.m. before reveille at 6:15, right? They're going through our skill work at 8 a.m. They're going through practice at 3:30, and then they're back in the gym on the gun for 30 minutes at night before bed, right? Like that kind of stuff is huge, right? So we have the framework from a coaching staff side that you're going to be treated as a college basketball player while you're here, right? The skill work you're going to do trickles down from college, and we're also going to create those opportunities for you to get back in the gym, right? Like if you want to get on the gun and you just want to get some shots up, that's great, right? Like we would love for you to end your day doing that, right? Like don't go overboard because you got to come back and we got 2 practices the next day. But we've created opportunities within our schedule for additional individual growth.
That's big time. I always talk to families about quality versus quantity, right? Because some places now be like, hey, you got 10 hours in the gym, or we got 12 hours in the gym. And I say, if you're going hard in game speed, you might last 30 minutes before you gas out. Sounds like what you're saying, Ben, is throughout the day, you're going to have quality and quantity together with what you guys are offering, which is pretty unique.
Right. And what you'll see around this time, right? Like we're into preseason. We've had a couple scrimmages. The guys that come back in the evening, that number dwindles a little bit more once you actually get into gameplay because again, like you are tired, right? Like that 8 a.m. skill work and then that 3:30 practice, like that's why those evening and morning sessions are 100% optional, right? Like we want you to, if you want to be there, we'll be there, right? But if not, like let's not overdo it.
I love it. A couple more questions. If you're a post-grad there, what's your academic requirements? What are your academic requirements?
So our guys, our post-grads will go through 4 classes every day, right? What those classes are depend on where they are in terms of NCAA eligibility, right? Which most post-grads that we're seeing now, like they're qualified. It's a lot. I think it's there are more opportunities to get qualified before post-grad year academically. So then it's like, all right, well, you're preparing to be a college student athlete. So we're not going to let you just mail it in academically this year, right? So fortunately, one of their 4 classes is weightlifting. So,
Okay.
that's works for them. But then there are other 3 courses, right? Like our guys are taking a speech course that is essentially public speaking for athletes. When I talk to families, I talk about Zach Edey in the Elite 8 a few years ago when Purdue finally got to the Final Four and Tracy Wolfson's holding a microphone up to him after he had 40 and 20 and he drops an F-bomb on CBS. And I'm like, man, like I get it as a competitor. I get it. You can't do it in that form, right?
No.
So that speech class, it helps, right? Because in today's day and age, these guys are going to have microphones in front of their face, whether they play at Averett University in Danville, Virginia, or they play at Duke University, right? Like, you're going to have a microphone in front of your face at some point. You have to be able to speak confidently without being arrogant, right? You have to be able to know what words you can and can't say on a hot mic. They're also in a seminar course that will do some SAT prep, right? Like, we still want our guys to take the SAT. Some colleges will require it still. So it's important that in the recruiting space that we don't close any doors before they can even open by not having a test score or not having a sufficient test score. So we've got that. They'll work on their college essays, right? Refining those things. We actually will bring in some guest speakers. And what we're doing with that seminar course now is it's a lot about building your brand, right? And
interesting.
like, these guys are in just such a special time in college athletics. It might be chaotic, but it is special for them. And for them to be able to capitalize on those NIL opportunities, we want to make sure that they build their brand, they do it properly, they understand what taxes are, they understand how to read a contract, things like that. And then their fourth class, right, their other academic class, it kind of varies. We do want the guys to maybe do a little career exploration. To where, like, my first team here 3 years ago, we had a young man who's at Columbia now. He wanted to study engineering. We didn't offer an engineering course, but we have a credit recovery online provider that, other students will use that, hey, there's an intro to engineering course. Well, the class might not necessarily be about the grade that you get in it, but hey, this is something you're thinking about doing. How much do you know about it, right? How much do you really know about engineering? Is it something you really want to get into? Because if you're just so gung-ho about, like, hey, I'm going to engineering school, like, I'm incredibly smart, I can get into Texas A&M, or I can get into Virginia Tech, and then you're like, oh man, this is engineering. I didn't know it was going to be this. Can I change my major to general studies, please? So we allow them to have those opportunities to kind of, reaffirm their beliefs, or maybe even and learn something new about maybe a major they weren't thinking about.
I love it. Thanks for sharing that. Last question. What does it take to be a D1 guard in 2025?
I'll tell you what, it takes a lot of things. But really, you have to be you have to be a coach on the floor. Like, you really do. Like, you have to be able to make sure that your teammates are in the right position, right? You have to be able to execute what the coaches are asking on offense and defense. You have to be able to dribble the ball, right? Like, if you do not have a tight handle, you are not going to make it to the Division I level as a guard, right? You have to be a capable shooter, right? You might not necessarily be a Steph Curry, right? But you have to be a capable shooter, right? You have to be able to keep defenses honest so that they're not going to pack the paint against you. And then you have to be able to defend, right? You have to be able to defend, be physical, all those things kind of wrapped into one, right? Like, but I think that for Division I guards, right, if you don't have that tight handle, right, and you're not 6'5", 6'6", like, and they can't use you on the wing, and even then you got to be able to dribble. I think that having that tight handle is paramount to being a Division I guard.
All right. Thanks for sharing that. We're going to finish up with some quick hitters here. All right.
All right.
Who's the best player you ever played against?
Derrick Rose.
Where'd you do that?
I was in an AAU event and just wanted to get my teeth kicked in, basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
And he kicked him in?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right. How about the best player you've coached against?
Oh, that's a good question. I'd probably say Nate Ament at Highland this past year.
Okay. What's your favorite movie?
Goodfellas.
All right. And lastly, what are your hobbies when you're not coaching?
I would like to say that I'm a golfer. I show up to the course, but I'm not very good. I'm learning. All
right. Is there anything you want to touch on that we didn't talk about during this time together?
No, Cory, I really appreciate you having me on here and having the opportunity to speak about Hargrave.
Yeah, and look, we're going to have all your contact information in the show notes, both on the podcasting page and on the YouTubing platform. So if anyone's interested, they'll reach out to you guys. I'm sure the website has inquiries and whatnot. Ben, thanks so much for joining us on the podcast today. I wish you best of luck this year. It's good talking to you again, and I appreciate coming on.
Awesome. Thanks, Cory.
If you guys like this interview and all the others, please be sure to subscribe on all the major podcasting platforms. Go to YouTube and subscribe there as well, as we have bonus content you can't get anywhere else. And if you're interested in going to prep schools such as Hargrave and would like some help, please go to our website, prepathletics.com, fill out the free assessment, and someone on our team will get back to you. We appreciate tuning in, and we'll see you next week on the Prep Athletics Podcast. Take care.